What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Dan coming back with another video, and today we're going to talk about the box office for the weekend, which has a very odd story because Spider-Man Far From Home actually came out earlier this week, Tuesday evening, going into Wednesday, so it had a very extended opening, which is why the overall numbers that you've seen it collect so far are as high as they are. It's also because the movie's doing very well, because even though I can say the movie is very much enjoyable, I am so over the MCU at this point, I just don't even want to really, promote it and say go see it, because I'm kind of in a Disney boycott mode at the moment. But anyway, so as you can see, the two top movies of the current weekend are what? Oh, that's right, Disney-related films. Now, obviously, Sony is the main big bad behind the Spider-Man Far From Home, but Disney's obviously getting a little bit of cut of that revenue as well. But Toy Story 4 is now, as you can see, actually making decent amounts of money. Now, is it going to make $1 billion? Potentially it could. Some people, and myself included, thought to myself that it was underperforming, but it seems to still be performing well enough, at least domestically and the foreign market, to be able to continue to make money, and I think that's really impressive nonetheless. Midsommar, which was another new release this weekend, it came out from A24, made $6.5 million. As a horror film, it doesn't really surprise me all that much. It probably wasn't made for that much money either, but overall, Midsummer is how you pronounce it, but I like saying Midsommar. It's, again, a movie I have not seen yet because it was made by the person that made Hereditary, and I'm not a huge fan of Hereditary. I think it's kind of pretentious nonsense, but that's, of course, just my own opinion. Midsommar seems to be something very similar to that, but I've heard that it's not that bad. So anyway, it's interesting to see where that comes into play. Now let's actually break down these numbers and actually go into how much the movies have made so far. So as I said before, Spider-Man Far From Home is doing very well. It's made $580 million in its opening week. And obviously, the reason why it's made as much as it has at this point is because of its extended opening up early in the week, and that's the reason why it's as high as it is, but it's still a crap ton of money nonetheless to be making in a week. This film is definitely on pace to the potential of potentially getting over $2 billion, which would be yet another Marvel-led, MCU-led movie making over $1 billion, which is something that's very impressive. I'm really waiting for the ball to drop, though. I'm really waiting for the bottom to drop and to fall out on Disney, because there's no way they can keep this up. There's no way you can continue to make billion-dollar after billion-dollar film, especially if they're going to go in the direction that they seem to be going in, with Captain Marvel getting 5 more movies and all these other things that they're doing behind the scenes. But $580 million is still nothing to snuff at, so it's doing very well. Toy Story 4, as I mentioned before, is, picking up some steam. So $650 million it's made so far. Only been out for a couple weeks, and that's pretty impressive. That is pretty damn impressive for this movie. It's a movie that, myself included, obviously, put down, and, I've said that it wasn't going to do as well. I personally hated this movie. I know that not everyone has that same opinion, but I personally absolutely hated this film. I thought it was completely unnecessary, and I feel like it really tarnished the overall story that was perfectly ended in Toy Story 3. There's some people, for some reason, that don't like Toy Story 3. Toy Story 4, to me, is just not a very good film. However, it is still doing well domestically, the $306 million mark, $343 million in the foreign market. But as you see, because those foreign and domestic numbers are so close to each other, and because the spread is not nearly as wide as some other films, I do think that this film might just fall shy of the $1 billion mark. But still, it's making profit, it's making a crap ton of money, and I really hope this is the last one, but Disney, they only have 2 original films coming out over the next 5 years, and so they're likely going to continue the next 5 years having another Toy Story come out, and with how they end this film, and the direction they decided to go in this film, they could obviously continue this on with spin-offs and direct-to-DVDs and direct-to-the-streaming service stuff. And yeah, something tells me that Toy Story is not going anywhere anytime soon. Some people might like that. I personally think that this franchise just needs to end. Yesterday, a film that, as I mentioned last weekend, Danny Boyle film. It's basically a guy that wakes up in a world where the Beatles never existed, but he still knows all of the songs. And so he's trying to remember the lyrics, and basically he's trying to get rich off of the Beatles songs because the whole world does not know about it, which is kind of an interesting concept. Low-budget film, $26 million, not making a crap ton of money, so $56.9 million. I've heard that it's actually pretty decent. I've heard that it's pretty good. I mean, Danny Boyle is known for making some pretty good films. That being said, I'm not too intrigued by the basic premise and the basic concept of the film, so I know that I myself probably won't see it. But the fact that you have a domestic total at 64.7 and a foreign total at 35.3, and you see that kind of a spread, anytime a film is making more domestically than it is foreign by that much, and the numbers are this low as it is after a couple weeks being open, kind of gives you an indication as to how this film is probably not going to make that much more than what it's making now. Could it reach the $100 million mark? Probably, maybe, but at the end of the day, I think that it's probably going to end up being enough to possibly break even, but not being all that impressive. What is really impressive and really is sad too is the fact that Aladdin is now at $920.6 million. I said beforehand I didn't think this film was going to reach $1 billion. If it continues to make this much money, especially overseas with $600.9 million, it could get close. Now, I still don't think it's going to cross the $1 billion mark, but it could get very close. And if it does, it's going to be yet another Disney film to cross the $1 billion mark, which kind of tells me that Disney has kind of cornered the market on how to get the film in as many theaters as possible by also trying to get this seen by as many people as possible by offering the highest ticket prices, etc. And this is a film that's completely unnecessary still to this day, and yet it's doing well. And I think that's interesting. Midsommar, as I said, domestic $10.9 million. It's a horror film, it's a thriller. So these are the types of films that tend not to do crazy bonkers numbers unless it's a huge, like cult success. This doesn't seem to have that that ability. But Ari Aster, as I said before, was the person that did Hereditary. I hated Hereditary, so I have really no desire to see this film, though I know a lot of people that follow my channel really want me to, but it's just, it's not that impressive. Men in Black International stopped making money. It's stopped. $244.4 million. This film is a flop, and it's going to be one of the biggest flops of the year, which I'm totally fine with. I finally was able to finish this film, allegedly, through a Fire Stick, allegedly, of course. And, yeah, it was not good. It was not good at all, and it was totally boring, uninteresting, and it was a reboot. Like, it was a complete and utter reboot. It acted like the other films didn't even exist, and I think that that's the worst thing they could have done because no one was asking for a reboot of this film. Every single property that gets rebooted, most of the time, no one is asking for it to be rebooted. Who in their right mind would have said, oh yeah, you know what we need to do? We need to remake Men in Black because it's been so long since we've had a Men in Black movie and I want to have another one. No one! Essentially no one. And guess what? The box office reflects that pretty much no one went to go see this film and it's going to end up losing money. Avengers Endgame getting very close. It's now at 2.772. 2.8 is the record set by Avatar. Now, is it going to reach it? At this point in time, it's slowing down so much, I don't think it's going to reach that, but it's going to get pretty damn close, and I think that Disney at this point in time is going to have to kind of, deal with, oh yeah, second highest grossing film of all time before adjusting for inflation, of course. But, I think that's, not a terrible thing. I mean, again, for a film that's not that good, in my opinion, I think that they should be very happy with the fact that it's made $2.78 million, and if you don't, it's $2.78 billion, and if you don't agree with me that it's not a good movie, well, again, objectively, you would be wrong. John Wick Chapter 3, making $311 million. Now, the reason why this is impressive is because it did not get a China release. So this film is doing actually very well. Now, some people will say, oh, but the percentages of domestic and foreign are pretty close. Yes, it's not doing crazy numbers overseas. It's not doing crazy numbers here, but it's doing well enough. It's doing well enough to the point where it is ranked number 1 in the entire franchise of the John Wick movies, and that kind of just goes to show you that every film that they release, every time they release a new John Wick movie, it makes more and more money. Why? Because they listen to their fans, they give the fans exactly what they want, and so the fans not only continue to come back, but they bring other people with them. And if they continue this formula, guess what? More and more people are going to watch it and fall in love with John Wick. And of course, do I think that John Wick has an end in sight? Yes, I think that John Wick 3 would have been a perfect ending for it as far as, not what the story said in John Wick 3, but I think that 3 movies would have been a perfect amount. But I think that if they at least have a reasonable end in sight, I would like it to end at some point. I don't want to have a John Wick Chapter 10. Even though I'm loving these movies so far, I do feel like it's going to come to some point where they're just going to try and do too much, and I just am kind of worried about that. Talking about another flop, though, Dark Phoenix. Once again, similar to Men in Black International, which is 244. This one's at $245.7 million, which means this is going to be another box office bomb, seeing that this film reportedly cost $200 million to make, meaning that when you take in production budget, it costs $300 million. Keep in mind, they only get 60% of that worldwide $245.7 million. Yeah, not looking good. So even though we can say that Disney's doing very well with movies like Avengers Endgame, we do look to movies like Dark Phoenix. We look to movies like last year's example for A Wrinkle in Time. So Disney might be able to put out a crap ton of billion-dollar hits, but they also have just as many, and in some cases really badly so, of flops. And this would be a perfect example of that. The fact that it's not even going to reach $100 million domestically is really, really sad for an X-Men movie especially. I mean, the movie is not very good. It's very sad. It's a very sad ending to a franchise that I thought was going to be revitalized after First Class, which I freaking love. First Class was great. Days of Future Past was great. And then Apocalypse, they started going off the rails. And then, of course, it ended with this one. Now, whether or not Disney interfered with it or not and changed the ending, which some people might think, I personally think they did. I don't know, but I think that it would be stupid of them to do so because they are now taking a giant loss on this film of the hundreds of millions of dollars. This is going to be the largest. Dark Phoenix is going to be the biggest box office bomb of this year, and I can't wait to talk about that at the end of the year when I'm doing the box office bombs of the year, the biggest ones. But Men in Black International is not going to be too far behind it. I mean, obviously, it was made for $90 million less, but still, yeah, not a good look for them. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts of this? Have you seen any of these movies? Have you seen Midsommar, which is the newest film that came out today? And have you seen Far From Home? Again, I think that Far From Home is entertaining. I gave it a solid B. It's a fun movie. However, I just really can't get behind the MCU right now. I can't get behind Disney at this point because of all the nonsense they're doing. I mean, Jeremy's talked about it on his channel, what the most recent thing that happened with the poor child and his father, and how Disney denied them a request. I think that's ridiculous, and I don't think that's a good look for them, and I don't think that it's going to help them in the long run. They might be okay for now, But there's going to come a point where they're going to have to start to move on from Tony Stark. They have to start to move on from these characters that so many people love. And I don't think the direction is going to be one that even the normies are going to be able to hang on to. But guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about this and all the movies down in the comments below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give us a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Go check me out on Odin's movie blog. It helps me out a lot too. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.